can see me all right. I'm giving a second to click on. It's doing its thing and thinking about it. All right, so good afternoon and welcome to Miss Walker's afternoon story time. This book is specifically geared for you guys. I've got others. You guys are always welcome to come to any of our story times we've got. But I wanted you to be sure that you could, there was a story time that had chapter books that was specifically for you guys. So today I'm going to start reading Ban This Book. It is written by Alan Gratz, which some of you may recognize that author. He was the guy who wrote Refugee, which the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, I think, read last fall, I think it was. They did their one book blitz in the fall instead of in the spring like we do it. And they did Refugee, and he came to town and talked. And this is one of his books. And it's one that I read earlier this year, and I've recommended for a few of you guys to read. But we will read probably a chapter, maybe 2 chapters, and then we'll pick up with the 3rd chapter and 4th chapter and whatnot next week. All right, so give me a thumbs up if you can see me okay and hear me okay and aren't having any problems with that. I just want to do a quick mic check and make sure everybody's good. All right, I see thumbs up from our friends. Awesome. All right, here we go. All right, so Ban This Book by Alan Gratz. Chapter 1, The Mystery of the Missing Book. It all started the day my favorite book went missing from the library. I didn't know it was missing. Not yet. In my mind, it was still sitting there on the shelf like a kid in the cafeteria waiting for her and her only friend to come find her. Waiting for me to come find her. All I wanted to do was run to the library and check out my favorite book after homeroom. But Rebecca, my one and only real life friend, was still talking about trademarking our names. Have you ever thought about registering amyannollander.com? Rebecca asked me. No, Rebecca. I have never thought of registering amyannollander.com. I was 9 years old. Why in the world would I register a website with my name on it when my parents wouldn't even let me use Facebook yet? That's what I thought about saying. Instead, I said no. You should, Rebecca told me. You've got a unique name. But even so, somebody could register it, and then what would you do? RebeccaZimmerman.com is already gone. I'm 10 years old, and already my future intellectual property has been snapped up. Jay-Z and Beyonce trademarked their babies' names less than a month after they were born. I think my parents should have known enough to do the same. Rebecca's parents were both lawyers, and she wanted to be one when she grew up. I couldn't imagine a more boring job. Instead, I said, yeah. I was itching to get to the library and check out my favorite book. I opened my locker to stuff my backpack inside and gave my mailbox a quick look. Nobody knows how it started, but everybody at Shelbourne Elementary has these cardboard boxes taped to the inside door of their lockers, just below the little vents. They put on there in case you get stuffed in a locker by a bully. If you want to leave a note for somebody, you slip the piece of paper in the slot and it falls down into the little cardboard box. It's just a tradition that Mr. Crunchfield, the custodian, just leaves the boxes in the locker from year to year. As usual, my mailbox was empty, which I'd expected. My one and only friend doesn't believe in writing notes. Never leave a paper trail, Rebecca says. More advice from her lawyer parents. Did you hear about Morgan Freeman, the actor? She said. Somebody who wasn't named Morgan Freeman registered his name at morganfreeman.com, and he had to sue them to get it back. Now that's an interesting case. I can't imagine anything less interesting, Rebecca. I don't care anything about trademarks or registering domain names. I have to go check out my favorite book before somebody else does. That's what I wanted to tell her, but instead, I held up a handful of books like a shield and said, I have to return to these books to the library before class and backed away before she could tell me any more about the court case. "I'll see you in homeroom," I called. Normally, I would have already have my favorite book checked out and in my backpack, but our librarian, Mrs. Jones, has a rule that you can only renew a book 2 times in a row. Then it has to sit on the shelf for 5 whole school days before you can check it out again. She says it's to make sure other people get a chance to read it. I think she just made it up to make me read other books, which I would have done anyway. Can you imagine a librarian wanting you to read books? I dumped last night's books into the book return and waved good morning to Mrs. Jones on my way to the fiction shelves. "Amy M," Mrs. Jones called. "Honey, wait." "Just let me grab my book," I called back, and I turned to the H&N shelves. And then I hurried to where my new favorite book would be waiting for me. Only it wasn't there. I looked again. It still wasn't there. I looked behind the books in case it had gotten pushed back and was hidden behind others like they sometimes do. But no, it really wasn't there. But my favorite book was always on the shelf. How could somebody else have checked it out? I was about to go and ask Mrs. Jones when she turned down the road. Mrs. Jones is a big white lady with short brown hair and rhinestone granny glasses that hang around her neck on a chain when she isn't reading. Today, she was wearing a red dress with white polka dots. The polka dots are her thing. "Where's my book?" she asked. "That's what I was trying to tell you, honey," said Mrs. Jones. "I knew you'd come in for it first thing." "It's been 5 days," I told her. "I marked down on my calendar. I get to check it out again after 5 days. You said so. Did somebody else check it out?" "No, Amy M. I had to take it off the shelf." I frowned. Take it off the shelf? What did she mean, take it off the shelf? Why? Mrs. Jones sighed and wrung her hands. She looked like she was about to tell me my dog had died. "Because some parents got together and said they didn't think it was appropriate for the elementary school, and the school board agreed with them." "Wasn't appropriate? What does that mean?" "It means I can't check it out to you, honey, or anybody else, not until I talk to the school board and get this nonsense overturned. It means, Amy Ann, your favorite book was banned from the school library. That means she can't check it out. Like the librarian said, she had to take it off the shelf." All right, chapter 2. Did I just say that? I felt like the carpet under my feet was turning into quicksand and I was sinking fast. I grabbed a hold of the bookshelf so I wouldn't fall over. But, but, it isn't appropriate? It's very appropriate. It's a great book. My favorite book. I know, honey. I agree. Nobody but your parents has a right to tell you what books you can read and what books you can't. I promise you, I'm going to fight this. But in the meantime, I have to abide with what the school board decides, or I could lose my job. All I could do was nod. I felt like crying, which was stupid. But it was like somebody had come into my bedroom and taken my stuff without asking, which was even more stupid because it was a library book. Library books belong to everybody. "You can help get it back, Amy Ann," Mrs. Jones said. I wiped a tear from my cheek. "How?" "There's a school board meeting Thursday night. I'm going to tell them how wrong they are. It would be even better if they heard from you." "Me?" "Just to hear why that book is would mean a lot." I swallowed hard. "Are you crazy, Mrs. Jones? Me? Get up in front of a bunch of adults and tell them why this book is my favorite book? Do you have polka dots on your brain? I can't do that." That's what I wanted to say. Instead, I said, "Okay, chapter 3, my favorite book and why." The late bus dropped me off in my neighborhood, and I stood by the curb, looking down at the street at my yellow house. Inside the house now was thing one. And thing two, my two annoying little sisters. I closed my eyes and shuddered at the thought of having to spend one more minute with them. You haven't met them yet, but trust me, if there were a prize for worst siblings of the century, Alexis and Angelina would rank above Fudge Hatcher, Stink Moody, and Edmund Paris. And Edmund Paris basically sold his brothers and sisters out to the White Witch for desserts. Right then and there, I thought about running away from home, just like the main characters in my favorite book. Did I tell you what my favorite book is? The one that got banned from Shelbourne Elementary Library? The one I said I would go to the school board meeting and talk about out loud in front of people? It's From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankenleiner by L. E. L. Kringenberg. I like a lot of other books too, especially Island of the Blue Dolphin, Hatchet, My Side of the Mountain, Hattie Big Sky, The Sign of the Beaver, and Julie of the Woods. Give me a thumbs up if any of you guys have ever read any of those. Have any of you all read Island of the Blue Dolphins, Hatchet? Ooh, some of you better have your hands up for that one. My Side of the Mountain, Hattie the Big Sky, The Sign of the Beaver, or Julie of the Wolves? Yeah. I know Alexandria just finished Hatchet. Some of you guys hit it last year too, didn't you? Basically, any story with the main character gets to live alone. Oh, she likes stories about people that get to live alone. Indian Captive was pretty good too, even though Mary Jensen had to live in an Indian village. But I would rather live with Indian kidnappers than live with my stupid two sisters. How many of you guys feel that way about some of your siblings, huh? Do your siblings drive you crazy? Oh, yes, Olivia, you read it last year and liked it. Yep. I'm sure none of you have brothers and sisters that drive you crazy, do you? Yep, some of you do. Well, I'm the oldest of four, and I definitely think I would like to compete with her for the worst siblings of the century. I turned away from my house and looked down the road that led out of my subdivision towards the 4-lane Papa Taco, our favorite Mexican restaurant, just 15 minutes by car. I could run there. How long would it take me to walk it? I shook my head. Even if I made it, what was I going to do? From the mixed up files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankenleiner, Claudia and her brother Jamie ran away to the let me try that again. They ran away to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City and hid out every night in the bathroom so the security guards didn't find them. I could hide out from Papa Taco bathroom until they locked it for the night. But then I'd be stuck in a Mexican restaurant all night. Now, if I could get to the library. My dreams of running away died as my mother's car turned into the subdivision. I waited until she stopped alongside me and rolled down her window. Hey, stranger, thinking about running away? Of course, I was thinking about running away. Every day I stand here and think about it and fill my backpack with a change of clothes and all the money I have, which isn't much, because you don't give me enough allowance, and ride the late bus until it dropped me off somewhere close to the mall where I could sleep every night in beds in the department store. That's what I wanted to say. But of course I didn't. Instead, I said, no. Mom was lighter skinned than me, and her frizzy hair and big dimples in her cheeks when she smiled like she was now. Hip hop, she said. How was school? She asked as we cruised the 30 seconds into our driveway. I wanted to say, it was awful. My favorite book got banned, and Mrs. Jones asked me to come to the school board meeting and talk about it. And I said yes, and I don't know how I'll ever do that. But instead, I said fine. Don't put your braids in your mouth, Mom said to me for the millionth time. My whole head was covered in braids. Some of them had little beads at the bottom. I suck on them when I get nervous, which was a lot. Mom pulled beside Dad's truck. I got out and stood by the car, reluctant to go inside. Oh, come on, said Mom. It's not that bad. Oh, yes, it is, I wanted to say. But of course, I didn't. All right, guys, shall we stop there or do we want to do another chapter? What do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Do you want to do another chapter? All right, let's see. All right. Hit in the chat box and tell me what you think. Emmanuel says he's ready to stop there. uh, Livia wants another one. Alexandria wants another one. All right. Most of you are saying another. If you all are tired and want to pop off now, of course you may. You don't have to stay on. You guys have been great so far. We're going to do one more chapter and then we will stop, okay? This one is called Ponies and the Pink Tutus. I think we're going to hear about her sisters. All right, here we go. Our two large Rottweilers, Flotsam and Jetsam, met us at the door to lick my face. They were so tall, they came up to my armpits. Off, off, I said, trying to get them so that they knew I had said hello. They barked and wagged their tails and squirmed in front of us, so much so that I couldn't move. I had to follow my mother like she was an icebreaker ship, pushing past the dogs into the kitchen. Dad was there stirring 2 pots on the stove and baking something in the oven and making salad. Dad was tall and thin with skin dark as mine and muscular arms from laying bricks all day. He had his opera music playing loud again, some Italian lady singing like someone was shaking her by the shoulders the whole time. Spaghetti in 15 minutes, he told us. Alexis, he yelled, come set the table. I've asked her 3 times. I can't, Alexis called. I'm changing for ballet. Amy Ann, will you do it, honey? Dad asks. Is Alexa talking? Oh, guys, you all probably can't hear it, but in my background, because I said the hold on. Alexa, off. My Alexa is talking to me in the background because I keep saying the name Alexis. If you all could only hear it, it's doing it like it does to me in the library. All right, back to our story. Amy Ann, honey, would you do it? Dad asked. No, Alexis always has some excuse not to do what she's told. Make her do it. That's what I wanted to say, but I knew from experience it didn't make any sense to argue. It never had. It was easier for everybody concerned if I just went ahead and did it. I dumped my backpack on the floor and went to the cabinet for plates. Mom disappeared down the hall to change out of her work clothes. Do you all ever have that happen to you with your little siblings? Do they ever get told to do something and they don't do it and so you guys get stuck doing it? Tell me about it in the chat. Do you ever get stuck doing chores that they've asked your brothers and sisters to do? I see those yeses coming in. Uh-huh. Yep. The pains of being the older siblings, right?
I'm
All right, here we go. Back to our story. How, how was chess class? Oh, Olivia, and you're not even the oldest. That's pretty good, girl. All right, here we go. Back to the story. You ready? How was chess club? Dad asked me. I cringed a little. I took the late bus home every day because I told my parents I was staying late for different clubs. But I wasn't in the chess club or the anime club or the robotics club. I wasn't in any club. I just sat in my favorite corner of the library and read books until I had to leave. It was the only time I ever had any peace and quiet. Fine, I lied. Angelina, my youngest sister, came galloping into the kitchen on all fours. She was a pudgy 5-year-old with Mom's dimples, Dad's darker skin, and her hair pulled back into a fuzzy ponytail on the back of her head. Angelina had decided she was going to grow up to be a pony, and for the past few weeks she'd been practicing all day. She made the plop, 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 plop sounds with her lips and nudged me with her head. "Hello, Angelina," I said. "Rainbow Sparkle," she told me. Rainbow Sparkle was her pony name. I I was definitely not calling her Rainbow Sparkle. The dogs thought Angelina was playing with them, so they started hopping around and barking her at her right where I was talking. I had to hold the plates up high not to drop them as I squeezed back and forth. Angelina and the dogs got under Dad's feet, and she stepped back from the stove to scowl. Can you just see it in your heads what's happening? They've got the dinner table, and here our main character is trying to set the table, and she can't do it because she keeps being bumped by everybody all around her. "Okay, I need all ponies and dogs out of the kitchen while I finish dinner," Dad said. "Amy Ann, can you do something with them?" "Why am I supposed to do something with them? I'm not the one crawling around on the floor getting all riled up." That's what I wanted to say, but of course I didn't. I grabbed Roller Girl, ooh, some of you read that book, out of my backpack and led Angelina down the hall by her imaginary lead and called Flotsam and Jetsam to follow me to the room I shared with Alexis. Alexis' clothes were all over the floor, even on my side of the room. I was holding onto the corner of the bed to practice. She was holding onto my bed to practice her arabesques in her pink tutu. Alexis, the middle sister, had it was a pretty brown color, every somewhere between mom and dad, and had pink highlighted hair cut short and straightened, and a pop song blasted from her CD player. I kicked her clothes across the imaginary line that separated the two sides of our room. "Use your bed," I told her for the thousandth time. "I can't," she told me. "Your bedpost is exactly the same size as the ballet bar." "Too bad," I said, but she didn't let go. I punched the eject button on the CD player, nabbed the CD, and jumped on my bed. Alexis scrambled after me, reaching for the CD. I'm guessing she was holding it like this. "Mom, Mom, Amy Ann took my music again," Alexis yelled. "It's my room too, and I want to read," I told her. "Amy Ann," Mom called. "Amy Ann, give your sister back her CD." "Why? It's my half of the room too," was what I wanted to say. "And I don't want to listen to Taylor Swift while I read." But I knew it wouldn't do any good. Alexis always got to practice her ballet whenever she wanted to. I tossed the CD onto like a frisbee onto Alexis's bed. She drove across the room for it. I called the dogs and they followed me as I stomped into the hall. Mom had changed her clothes and was headed to the kitchen when her phone rang. "Don't answer that," Dad yelled. Mom took her phone out of her pocket and looked at it. "It's the office." "Definitely don't answer that," Dad yelled. Mom answered it. "Hello? Yes, you're kidding. Redo the presentation. Really? Before the end of the day tomorrow?" "It's not due until, no, I'm home already. About to sit down with my family and," she covered the phone with her hand and called out to my dad. "Jamal, can you please turn that music down?" "I told you not to answer it," Dad said. He couldn't run down, he didn't turn down the crazy opera singer. Flotsam and Jetsam tried to run into the kitchen again to mooch food. I had to drag them into the living room. I couldn't even hide out there. Angelina had promised. Oh, I lost my place. Hold on. There we go. Angelina had pulled all the cushions off the furniture to make a barn for herself. She'd used Mom's paper shredder again to slice up paper to make fake hay. Today she found something to build a fence out of too. "My books," I said. The few books I owned, were all propped up against each other in a half circle outside her barn. The spines twisted out of shape, and I started to snatch them up, and Angelina wailed, "No, no, I need those. I need those. You're not using them." "Well, you're not using your room," I told her. "How about if I go in there and read?" Alexis and I shared the room. because 5 years ago, mom and dad decided our house wasn't crazy enough. They needed another kid. So Angelina got a room all to herself when she was a baby and had a different bedtime. I would be happy to go to bed at 8 o'clock every night and read if it meant I'd have my own room. But I knew we're down to the last few pages, guys. But I knew there was no way Alexis and Angelina would share a room together. I marched towards Angelina's room with an armful of books. No, no, that's my room. You can't, Angelina screamed. Mom stuck her head in the room. Girls, please. I'm on the phone with work. Angelina wrapped herself around my leg. Amy Ann took my fence and now she's going to my room. She wailed. Amy Ann, I need you to be the mature one here, she said. But, Mom mean frowned at me. Fix this, she said, and went back to her phone. So I had to give Alexis her CD back and but Angelina didn't have to give me my books back. How fair was that? And Mom didn't understand why I wanted to run away. I turned from Angelina's room and shoved the books back at her. Here, if you bend any of the pages or covers, you're a dead horsey, understand? Pony, Angelina said, ranging the books back as the fence. Amy Ann, I thought I asked you to keep those dogs out of the kitchen. They're licking the floor again. I drooped. The dogs slipped away from me in the middle of my arguing with Angelina. Flotsam, jetsam, come, I yelled. Down the hall, Mom put her finger to her other ear and frowned. I'm sorry, can you say that again? I led the dogs to the bathroom and shut the door. It was the only place I had found that I could get away from everyone. I sat down on the closed toilet seat with a huff. Pulled Jet and Flot to me, hugging them. They were the only ones who really listened to me. With everybody else, I just stopped trying. I don't suppose you guys have found a magical rabbit hole that I can fall down or dug up an enchanted amulet in the backyard that leads to another world, have you? Flotsam and Jetsam licked my face and wagged their stubby tails, which I took was a no. Well, at least we can hide out here till dinner, I told them. The door rattled. Mom, Mom, Alexis yelled. Amy Ann is hogging the bathroom again, and I have to pee. And we will stop right there as we begin. I think it's chapter 5 called It Speaks. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. And we will pick up again